But we don't. I know you've been doing some research.
Yeah.
Where are these stockpiles?
Well, look, Western intelligence estimates have suggested that they could be spread out through as many as 50 cities throughout Syria. And of course, now that the regime has been moving some of these components around, it's hard to keep track of exactly where they are. One of the most reliable assessments is that this facility here in Al-Safir, which is just south of Aleppo, is a notorious warehouse for Syria's chemical weapons components, both the chemicals themselves, but also the weaponization elements. I mean, there are essentially three ways that these things can be delivered: artillery, missiles, or by aircraft. So one of the dangers, and the Western intelligence community has sort of established this week, in fact, is that they are beginning to combine what's known as the precursors for sarin gas, which these precursors are usually kept separate. Once they start to fuse them together, that means they're preparing for something.
Let's talk about what we believe these stockpiles include. Traditional chemical agents like mustard gas. What do we know about mustard gas?
Well, this is one of the oldest chemical weapon probably known to man. I mean, it was obviously used first in World War I. It has a devastating effect, particularly on the skin and the lungs. It causes severe blistering. People end up choking to death, essentially, when it's deployed.
More modern nerve agents, such as, for example, sarin.
Yeah, well, sarin gas was used most notoriously by Saddam Hussein against first the Iranians during the Iran-Iraq War, and then, even more notoriously perhaps, against the Kurds in Halabja. This is about 500 times more fatal than cyanide. It leads to twitching, muscular atrophy, vomiting. People usually, again, they end up in a coma, and then they choke to death from the violent convulsions it causes. And
possibly persistent nerve agents, VX.
Yeah, I mean, it's not yet been fully established the regime has got this. Some regime insiders insist that they do. As you said, it's a nerve agent. It's extraordinarily powerful. It leads, again, to the similar symptoms as sarin. People usually end up choking.
Do we believe that pesticides in the past may have already been used?
Well, when I was in Antakya in southern Turkey, I interviewed the former head of the chemical weapons program, Adnan Silu, and I asked him that exact question because activists and rebels on the ground, particularly in Homs, several months ago, you remember there was a horrifying siege, had complained of symptoms such as hair loss, memory loss, muscle fatigue. He said that the only thing the regime had used thus far had been pesticides. So, I mean, if they have VX, then this is probably one of the most dangerous elements they could deploy.
And you've talked about the idea of weaponization and how these might be deployed. Michael, stay with us. I want to explore the timing of what we now see as this ratcheting up of the international effort, as we see these missile defense barriers being established over the next couple of weeks, for example, on the border with